everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Michael, and as always, I'm joined by...
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey Comics from May of 1989.
That's right, and unfortunately, G.I. Jolie could not be with us, but Bex Luthor is here.
Woo. Double, unfortunately. Jolie's not here, and I'm here.
Oh, man.
Yes. So, yeah, Bex Luthor was just talking about Crypto
Nobody
the Superdog.
Kidding.
yeah, whatever. Anyway,
shut up.
You're on to us. No, Bex Luthor was just talking about Crypto the Superdog. I'm going to give it a shout out on the movie review, but I'm also going to give it a shout out here. I've never seen it, but it is on the agenda.
It's a good cartoon.
I believe
that
you.
I remember. Haven't seen it in 20 years, so.
I so appreciate DC for, keeping those old Silver Age properties alive. But anyway.
You still gotta watch Legion of Superheroes, too. That's a great cartoon.
Anyway. I'm working my way through Blu-ray. I bought, on your recommendation, Justice League Unlimited, as well as the first Justice League. I rewatched Batman. Now I'm rewatching Superman. Next will probably be maybe Batman Beyond, and then I'll go from there.
That's a great show. Yeah. Batman Beyond. And don't forget Teen Titans. That's also a good show.
Never seen that. You mean like not Teen Titans Go, but the one before that, right?
Yeah, the original cartoon, yeah.
Okay.
The one that is definitely not for the same age group that Teen Titans Go is for.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. It's on the agenda. Excuse me. Okay, so now, Josh, you're going to tell us what happens in Web of Spider-Man number 50.
50, right. This special giant-sized issue, guest starring Silver Sable, the Sandman, Will-O-the-Wisp, Puma, Rocket Racer, and Prowler. We just got to get everybody in here.
Yep.
All right.
Everyone's favorite Will-O-the-Wisp.
Will-O-the-Wisp. Okay, this is a doozy of an issue. We start off. JJ is getting some pictures of Spider-Man from this freelance photographer named Katzenberg. He is giving JJ pictures of Spider-Man actually robbing a well-known businessman named Winston Walker. He's robbing his house, and he stole a bunch of documents and money and bonds, a bunch of saving bonds. So JJ's this is great, fantastic, I love it. He hires Katzenberg on permanently. He's super happy, he's jolly, walking around, goes to his apartment, and then we actually see him get knocked out by this knockout gas. He falls to the ground. So we then see the paper has been printed. Spider-Man thief ? So all of New York now is reading about how Spider-Man stole from this mansion. We see Puma. He's just getting out of the gym, toweling off. He's reading it pretty interesting. We cut over to Harlem and we see Speed Racer. He's reading the paper. We got Will-O-the-Wisp, Prowler, Sandman. Just his whole rogues gallery is kind of catching up on what's going on. Then we cut over to Winston and Winston Walker, and he is really pissed off. All this stuff is in his mansion has been raided. He yells at his security guards. And then we see this mysterious figure in shadow taking pictures of him freaking out and being all nervous. Cut then over to Aunt May's house, and MJ and Peter are still living there after their house burned down. Or sorry, they got evicted.
Yeah.
Sorry, they got evicted because the owner is in love with MJ or whatever. So Peter didn't get much sleep last night. MJ's confused as to why until she reads the paper and sees the headline. So she's like, oh no, Peter, why didn't you tell me? Cut over to Robbie Robertson. He's kind of having a little bit of a feud with his son, who is upset that Robbie is more concerned about the Daily Bugle and what's going on there than his actual trial that's going on right now currently. We also get this weird cameo of the Joker. Apparently he's getting arrested.
I'm glad you noticed that. I wasn't sure. Did you notice that, Becca?
Yeah, I did. I was like, there he is.
Oh, okay.
And that's not even the weirdest thing that happens in this issue, folks.
Right.
We cut over to the Arranger, who's reading an article about a new gang war. The Gang War 2, I guess. So I can't remember what he's doing here. Lobo. We're kind of catching up with Lobo. He calls him and he's like, hey, guess what? This is the dude that you just tried to kill. Me and my brother are in town. You better watch your back or we're going to take control of the new gang war. And then that's kind of that. I don't even think that they really come up again in this a whole lot. The Arranger, I think, does. The Lobos, I don't think in this issue. Anyways, we see Silver Sable. She's training. She gets a buzz on her pager. She's like, oh, finally, it's ready. So cut over to Peter. He's falling asleep in his lab. He also gets buzzed on his pager, so he leaves. And as he goes to the roof and changes into Spider-Man costume, the Puma shows up and starts fighting him. And he's like, I'm angry because you're a bad guy. I was a bad guy, but now I'm a good guy, and I'm mad that you turned into a bad guy. So they kind of fight. We see Rocket Racer, and I think I called him Speed Racer earlier too. Rocket Racer and Prowler meet up. They start getting into an argument until they realize that they're actually friends and working together and also angry at Spider-Man. So they get away, and as they decide to team up, they're like flying away together, and they see this dude on a building taking pictures of the Walker estate, the one that was just robbed that the police are at. So they go they like stop him, they interrogate him, and they find out that he's working for Silver Sable. Spidey's swinging through the city. He's chasing somebody for something. We don't know exactly. He's chasing like the car, I believe, of Walker, but we're still kind of left in the dark as to why exactly he robbed him. And it turns out that he's like tailing them right now to try and find their secret safe with all of these documents or whatever, this like tube full of papers. So he webs them up, grabs the tube, and Will-O-the-Wisp shows up. Spidey easily defeats him by tricking him into flying straight into an electric pole. Okay. Walker starts throwing a temper tantrum. Spidey meets up with Silver Sable, and then all of his enemies kind of show up all at once. Sandman is there protecting them, but he is like taking things too far and like almost killing Prowler and Rocket Racer. So Spidey's like, well, shit, I've got to start attacking Sandman now, even though he's working for Silver Sable. So it turns into this huge fight. Puma shows up out of nowhere and jumps out of a freaking helicopter. Will-O-the-Wisp is there and makes Sandman explode. It's just kind of this like insane free-for-all. Spidey and Silver Sable run underneath the docks into like this area where they can't be stopped, and it's all this big misunderstanding where Spidey's like, no, listen, I robbed him. That way I can get him to check in on his other assets that are more secret. So I tailed him and actually got the info about him and all of his dealings with the Mafia, or the Magia in the MCU, or 616 Marvel Comics. So everybody's like, oh, okay, and leaves. And so they're able to kind of put this guy behind bars. Peter has pictures of this whole thing, and JJ's like, no, I don't want anything to do with this. I only want pictures of Spider-Man doing bad things. Sorry. And then Peter's like, well, I guess I'm no longer working at the Bugle. And JJ's like, yeah, I guess not. See you later. So then we cut over to Spider-Man and MJ having sex, and Aunt May walks in on them.
Yeah, they are.
And Spider-Man makes a joke about MJ warming up his bone, and then and then we cut over back to JJ as he's walking back to his apartment again, and we actually see the real JJ tied up on his bed, and we see JJ's face start to melt and reform into the chameleon, and it turns out that it's actually been the chameleon this whole time that told Parker to kind of get out of there and has been running these bad stories about Spider-Man. And that's where we leave everything off for this issue. And boy, oh boy, okay. My first impression was I was really liking, actually, how everything was falling into place at the beginning. And then when the further and further we got into this issue, the more it just kind of started turning into like a big punch fest. Yeah. And then at the end, it was resolved with Spider-Man going, wait, this is just a misunderstanding. I'm actually a good guy. And then everybody leaves. Like, there's no clever way around it or anything. Right. And that was like the one thing throughout that kind of bothered me. I'm like, why doesn't he just tell all of these people right away when they start fighting him one-on-one? It just didn't make any sense. So at the end, it was really annoying that the entire resolution is just him telling everybody, because he could have done that from the start if these were heroes that he trusted and worked with before, right? So, I thought it was great at the beginning. I love the setup. I like that Spidey is kind of like doing something bad in a sense, and he's kind of like okay with his his reputation being tarnished a little bit if it means he has a chance to like take down a big bad guy. That's super fun. All of his like friends who are kind of like good guy, bad guy, like coming after him because he's turned evil is really fun too. I love that it's like a secret mission that him and Silver Sable are kind of working together. I also like that the audience, like we as the reader, don't know exactly what's going on. Like I was actually like, ooh, I'm interested to see where this goes. Right. I do think it falls flat a little bit again at the end when it the resolution is, no, I did a good thing, and then everybody's gone. But that stinger ended up being pretty fun with JJ and Chameleon, so Yeah,
here's the thing. Yeah, things I liked. I love the fact that we're kept in the dark, right? I love that, like you said, how we don't know why he's doing it. And at first you might think, oh, maybe he's not a thief. But then he says flat out, no, yeah, I did steal it. And then just like takes off. That's really cool. But the whole premise that all these people are so rattled that they got to go and punch Spider-Man in the face because he's a thief. Like, and why these guys? What, Will-o'-the-Wisp cares that much?
Will-o'-the-Wisp makes no sense.
Right, and Rocket Racer, who we haven't seen since Spectacular 104, and who the Prowler. Again, this is New York. Where's the Avengers? Where's the FF? Yeah. How come they don't care? Clearly, it doesn't matter. Also, the fact that the Daily Bugle publishes negative press about Spider-Man every single day. Why is this one article enough to rile everybody up, right?
Right.
So that was totally forced.
Yeah.
It was clearly just an excuse to get them all in the book, right? And then the way it's resolved is forced. Yeah, like, I don't know. It was a good premise, but I think it could have been handled better if Spider-Man had it was a logical motivation why he did what he did, but I wish it was like if he was really like if they held a gun to his head and he's like, you don't understand or something like that. I had to steal it. I don't know what. Just something more
the resolution, I think, is replace every single one of these characters for the Punisher. And the reason why he doesn't tell Punisher is because he knows that Punisher is just going to go kill this guy because he's doing bad things. And Spider-Man wants actual justice for this guy to go to jail and not to just be flat out murdered.
Right. Okay, Bex Luthor, what'd you think?
I liked it. I read it and I was like, this is so fun. I love a big misunderstanding. I love that the biggest plot device in most things is just miscommunication. Because in my experience with men, that's very common. Oh shit! Misandry.
Probably true.
Look, Peter Parker, probably not the best communicator. These schmucks, probably not the best communicator. I think it's pretty justified that Peter would just be like, I don't got time for this, and just yeets himself. I love that Puma appears on a helicopter in every scene, and then disappears on a helicopter also. He, like, just comes from wherever he was.
Yeah.
I would love to know the reason for these specific characters, like the B-est of B teams for some reason.
Yes, totally true.
Like
they want
Silver
all these
Sable and
characters
Sandman?
to show up in the annual where they have like the full page yeah.
They're like, remember Rocket Racer? And you're like, no.
No.
And like there's some like Silver Sable and Sandman are working together. We know that from like recent issues. Prowler was in some recent issues, so it's like, okay, he just like reformed himself. I don't think I've ever read a comic with Will-O-the-Wisp in it.
I know we did one in Amazing. He was in one issue. You must have missed that
he was
one.
in I think he was in a little bit. He was like a scientist for an episode or an issue, and then he turned into the Will-O-the-Wisp, and it was really stupid. I remember
Shocking.
not enjoying that story.
I'm shocked. Yeah, all the J. Jonah Chameleon stuff, that's dope. Love that. I just think it's fun to watch them all. Like, I like when random people team up. Like Prowler and Rocket Racer are like, wait a second, let's team up, and then they just like fly off into the sunset together.
I did like that a lot. Yeah, the two of them are a fun duo.
Puma's just always been annoying, so continues the same trend of just being a burden to Peter Parker.
He's kind of just shitty Craven, huh?
Yeah, he's just kind of shitty Craven.
I used to hate him as a kid. Now I like him. You know?
That's funny.
He's fine.
Yeah,
he's
fine. I don't know.
I don't. Just be a good guy or a bad guy. Like, pick one, dude. What else did I want to say when I was reading this? Oh yeah, the Peter and Mary Jane having sex, very risque. 10 out of 10. Love that. We wrapped up everything. It's like, okay, everything's wrapped up. Peter's like, it's all a misunderstanding. It's over with. J. Jonah's given his spidey senses a tingle. That's all good. But like, sorry, I have audio playing from a tab that's gone.
Whoops. Don't worry, we can't hear it.
Nobody could hear it but me, but I couldn't hear anything else. Yeah, everything's all wrapped up, and then all of a sudden, Peter and Mary Jane are in their underwears, and then they're literally having sex. Like, guys, calm down. Also, lock the door.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in this house seems to not knock. So.
True.
I was surprised by some of the dialogue. Like, when they cut away to the house. I don't know why the and now shocked me.
Yeah, well,
but,
I mean, we can
get
only
it,
imagine what they're doing.
But I was like, oh, damn, okay, I guess this is happening. It was just, like, surprising to see that in a Spidey comic.
Mm-hmm. And when he's like, and we're already warming our bones, I was like, bro, are you like...
You cannot say
like,
that to your
balls
aunt.
deep already? Like,
Your
what the
old
fuck?
aunt.
Like, relax. And then I like how Aunt May's like, oh, I forgot you were married. Like, that makes it okay. Like, oh, well, if you weren't married, I'd be so upset, but you're married.
She is old-fashioned.
Well, yeah, but, like, they still maybe shouldn't... I don't know.
Yeah, I could have been warming my bone myself if I was home alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, knock. But, like, it doesn't... If Aunt May's awake, it's probably not that late. Like,
right.
Guys, you don't live alone anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I just want to point out one other thing I didn't like was oh, it's raining. I like the fact that they lifted the plot. Like, I'm not saying I liked it, but they lifted a plot from a Sherlock Holmes story. Okay, that's fine. And you could argue that it's better to acknowledge that they ripped it off, but I don't like the way Spider-Man does it. Like, it's almost like I wish someone in the story was like, hey, like that Sherlock Holmes story. But the way that Spider-Man is just like, we got the idea from Sherlock Holmes. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of lame, you know? I don't know.
It's like he should have just left a little annotation and be like, we stole this idea from Sherlock Holmes.
But I bet you that no one, like, and I don't want to say, like, I don't want to advocate, like, the Tarantino way where you just steal everything and don't credit anyone. But it's almost like they could have done it and gotten away with it and no one would have known, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It would have been if it would have been better to do it in a more cheeky way, I think. Like maybe MJ says something like, well, maybe you wouldn't be so tired if you didn't stay up late the past few nights watching old Sherlock Holmes movies or something like that, right? To kind of like, or
maybe they can't think of a plan and then he's reading it and he gets the idea. But the way that they drop the reference in, it just feels very like Gerry Conway's like, okay, I stole it from Sherlock Holmes and I just have to stick it in here, you know? I didn't like that.
It's like, anyway. You don't, because I wouldn't have gotten it. I totally forgot it was a Sherlock Holmes reference, and I just read this.
Right.
I mean, my intelligence.
But anyway, I mean, here's the thing, and this is kind of what I thought when I was a kid, is I knew that Webb and Spectacular were both written by Gerry Conway, but I always felt like Webb was the more kind of juvenile of the two. And I don't get me wrong, I love Alex Saviuk, but it's partly because of his art. His art looks very vintage, right? Like 70s-ish. But it seems like Conway's consciously making Spectacular more realistic and gritty, and Webb a little bit more like fun and whimsical, right? Mm-hmm. Which is fine, because later in his career, Saviuk ended up doing the Spider-Man tie-in, the comic book tie-in to the animated series, which he's totally suited for. It just gives it kind of a more childish vibe, right? Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's more fun, I find, like when Spectacular is trying to be serious, but the story doesn't pan out. It's much worse than when like a goofy story like this is kind of like, because at least there's like fun moments where they're trying to be light and cartoony. So
that's a good point.
It definitely has its ups and downs for both. I honestly did enjoy reading this one a lot, even though the ending was disappointing. It's one of the best giant sized issues we've read, I think, just because most of the time the stories are just so overstuffed and nonsense is thrown in just because we have to sell this one because it's a special issue and special numbering. So let's do something crazy for this one. And the story never really pans out. So the fact that they were like able to keep my interest the whole time and like keep me wanting to read more is definitely a plus. And I might actually go back and read this again someday.
Whoa.
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay, alert the presses. All right. That's cool. So you know what? I guess it's time to rate it then.
Yeah.
Because we don't do recommendations. We give ratings.
Right.
We started a new trend. So, I guess I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. I think I'd go 7.
7? Okay.
Yeah. I think it was really fun. The ending doesn't necessarily land, but it kind of redeems itself with the JJ ending. So, 7.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it 7. Inappropriately barging in on your nephew boning his wife out of 10.
Okay. 7 to nows.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Okay. So now we're going to go. Oh, by the way, did you guys notice the cover has the same ugly pattern that
Gold
Amazing 300 did with the 300, 300, 300. Now it's 50, 50, 50.
Yes.
I'm glad they got rid of that. Anyway.
Yeah, they didn't.
They didn't?
They didn't get rid.
Did they use it again?
They've used it hundreds of times since.
Oh, as homages, you mean? Yeah, that's different. Yeah. Okay.
Dude, anyway. I got a Vampirella cover that has that on it.
Ooh, that's too bad.
I feel like it would be nice with like a foil cover or something.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? But
I could go grab one right now.
It's okay. But I believe you, though. I believe you. So now we're going to go to Amazing Spider-Man 315. Oh, look at this cover. Anyway, Bex Luthor, you're going to tell us what this one's about.
Yeah, just a big hunk of himbo on the cover. Love it. Also, Venom's in this. I like how they teased Venom in the last issue, right? They were like, next week, Venom. And he's
going to be on a bus.
Yeah, he's gonna be on a
Just
bus.
teasing his cameo, I know. But you know what? Yeah, that's fine. Because let's also be clear. It's like in comic book time, this was 2 years later. That's a long time to wait for a second appearance, right?
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
But I just love like the idea of like you read a comic and at the end you're like, oh, Venom, and then you pick up the next issue and it's just Hydra Man on the front, and you're like 7, and you're like, but Venom, and then
right.
And no, it's everyone's favorite Hydra Man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to open up the comic book and it keeps giving me ads for singles in my area. I'm married.
Ooh.
So yeah, we start off the issue and we are at, what's this facility called again?
So whatever prison he's in.
Yeah, sure. It's not the Raft, but the other one.
Yeah.
So Eddie Brock is there and he hilariously tricks just the worst guy's first day into letting him out, and he just kills a man. But he feels bad about it, so he gives him a little smooch on the forehead. 10 out of 10 boys smooching boys, and he feels bad that he killed him. So
right,
we're gonna say that this is a positive representation.
There you go.
Look, it was the 80s, and we will take what we can get. So Venom is escaping, and he's going to get his vengeance on Spider-Man. What's Spider-Man doing? He's fighting Hydra Man, of course, because why not? Because what's his name can draw water, so let's draw some water. So Spidey's fighting Hydra Man, and he's like, don't worry, I'll just trick him into punching this box of electricity that's conveniently here. And Hydra Man's like, not this time. So Spider-Man's like, I'll just trick him into exploding this cement, and he does fall for that one, so he ends up mixing with the cement and going down the drain. And then Spider-Man's like, whew, dodge that one, and then just keep swinging away. He has turned Aunt May's basement into a dark room for his photos and for Spider-Man sneaking in and out shenanigans. So he sneaks back in through the basement window which I think is a funny juxtaposition of him sneaking out as a teenager from his bedroom window. Now he has to sneak out of the basement window. Some things never change. And Mary Jane's there to see him, and all of the people who live in Aunt May's home are going to a poetry reading, except for Nathan, who has no time for fairy tales because he sucks. He sucks so much. So everyone's leaving. Peter's leaving. Mary Jane's leaving. Christy, I wish, was leaving. She is not. She is still here. She's still here, and only 2 things happen around Christy. She flirts with Peter, and she eats a lot. Wonder what her story's gonna be about.
Where's our Christy mugs? Come on.
Jeez, Christy, how do you stay so thin? You eat so much. It's almost like you're purging.
Yeah, but I didn't know that when I was 11, right? So I learned something.
I was an 11-year-old girl, and I knew that.
I didn't.
Oof.
This was not public knowledge in 1989. Maybe it was. Yes, it was, actually. But not for me.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, Peter's on his way out, and he spots Nathan stealing something from Aunt May's room, which is just hella suspicious. So back at the prison facility, Venom is not killing anybody else.
Yeah.
Specifically, not killing anybody else, because innocent lives, you don't want to do that. But he does shove a lot of symbiote goo into a man's nostrils. And then he breaks out. So now Venom is free. Back in New York, Spider-Man is tailing Nathan, who is upset at an ATM machine because he can't take out too much money. He turns back into Peter Parker, and Peter confronts Nathan, and he's like, hey, why'd you steal Aunt May's credit card? That's not cool. And Nathan admits that he has a gambling problem, shockingly, and he's just gonna borrow Aunt May's money real quick to pay off the loan sharks that are threatening his life that beat him up previously and put him in the hospital. But he'll pay her right back once he, wins big or whatever. And Peter's like, yeah, not gonna happen. So, because Peter's the best boy ever, he takes his own money from his own photographs that he just got and deposits it into Aunt May's account so she doesn't notice any money is missing. And also promises Nathan that he's not gonna tell Aunt May. So back at Aunt May's house, Peter and Mary Jane are having a serious conversation. Oh yeah, I was like, what are they talking about? But I think, yeah, anyway, so Aunt May catches Nathan stealing flour. You don't think that's important, but it ends up being important. He's like, I was just taking snacks before dinner. You caught me. Turns out he stole a bunch of stuff and a kitchen knife. Mm-hmm. And he meets up with these mob guys who he owes $5,000 to, and gives one a big old stab-a-rooney. And then the guy pulls a gun on him, and he's like, oh, stab this. And Nathan throws flour on him and disorients him for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Luckily,
the
Peter
flour
followed
in the eye
him.
trick, yep.
He's like, take this. And then the man still has a gun. Because, it's a gun. But luckily, Peter shows up as Spider-Man. He beats up the guys, who make some fun quips about it, quickly changes back into Peter, and threatens the mob guys and tells them, oh, I have it all on camera, that you were trying to kill this senior citizen, blah, 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 blah. Nathan and him have a nice conversation where he promises Peter he's going to quit gambling, which immediately doesn't work. He immediately gambles the next day. He immediately goes out and buys lottery tickets, but he does feel bad about it, so... Progress. Why stop your addictions when you could just be sad? It also is still, I don't know. It's an illness, but also whatever.
Yeah, I hear you.
So now that that's all taken care of and nothing has been resolved, we go back to the stupidest family on the planet who picked up a hitchhiker, and they're like, oh, we just felt so bad for him. It's snowing outside. Literally, it's Eddie Brock. So they pick up Venom and they're taking him to the city, and they're like, oh, we felt so bad for you because you were told us you were like sleeping in caves, and the husband's like, oh, I couldn't do that. I'm so scared of snakes. And he's like, it's not the snakes, it's the spiders. Hate spiders. And then that's it.
So, can I just
say... So Venom's
say...
back, baby.
Yes. But can I just say that, obviously, I bought this when I was a kid, and I think this might be Todd McFarlane's best issue yet. I feel like I could look at every page and, for example, let's just start with this freaking cover. The way the water is coming off of Hydro Man's hands, it's not quite water-like. It's more like slime-like, right?
Yeah, it's almost like you can see that there's like the form of the human, and then in some parts the human is starting to like fall into the water as it's like pouring apart. Almost.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I don't know if he was thinking that or if he just was making it look cooler than water actually is. But I also love the way Spider-Man is in full detail above the water, and then when he goes under the water, he's not. But I have to point out he got that trick from Steve Ditko, but it's still cool, right?
Yeah.
It's still very cool. And then flipping through the issue, the splash page with Eddie Brock with his face coming out of the Venom costume is awesome, right? When he swings away, it's great. These are all classic, poses.
When he kisses that man.
Yeah, when he kisses the man, smack. Even the fight with Hydro Man, this is kind of like another typical Michelinie, McFarlane classic villain that's back for 2 seconds and defeated in 4 seconds. But it seems like McFarlane is spending a little bit more time. Like even the little twist where Spidey thinks he's going to defeat him by pulling the door off of the electrical transformer, and then his hands go around it. That's cool. And then with the cement thing, like everything seems to be, I don't know. I think McFarlane's really trying hard this issue. Now, I want to point out on digital page 8 when Spider-Man's climbing up the building, that is a great shot of that perspective. You notice that? I love that shot. There's only one thing, and maybe Josh, because you're an animator, you can help. Why is it that it basically looks like a 1,000-foot Spider-Man crawling away from a bunch of ants?
Yeah, I think it's the lines in the wall.
Right.
Make it seem like the horizontal lines in the wall make it seem like it's not far. Like they don't. They don't go into the distance enough.
Yeah, you're right. Like if the lines were far apart up here and then closer apart as they got lower, then it would create that illusion. You're right.
And it does a little bit, but I just don't think enough, so it feels like there's like this weird optical illusion going on, but
right.
Yeah.
It's just that Spider-Man balloon from the last issue.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. There it is. Yeah.
But see, McFarlane, I think he's slightly, because McFarlane does eventually evolve into an even more detailed style on Spider-Man. But it's almost like he's slightly changing his style here, like getting a little bit more detailed and spending a little bit more time. Obviously, it's back to monthly. It's not bi-weekly anymore. Even the shot of him sticking his finger in the guy's mouth with the black goo coming out of his nose, that's a great shot, eh?
Yeah, the inking also seems like a lot thicker this issue.
Yes, I noticed that. Yep.
Especially in like a lot of the faces. Even in like the dialogue shots where it's just like Peter and MJ talking after he gets home. Like you do have like I don't have the page numbers, but it's after he gets into the basement and he takes his mask off. That feels like more of like what we've been getting from McFarlane, where it's like really thin, sketchy lines. Right. But then the page after that, it's like super heavy-handed.
I did notice that. Yep, he might be experimenting with like a different, what's it called, pen or brush, right?
Yeah.
Totally right.
And it's interesting. I feel like it's a weird choice to have it thick like that for when it's just like the human characters talking and not when it's like the fight scenes or like the intense things going on. But yeah, I don't know. It's the thing that I noticed the most. Right. Even with like the shading of like Nathan like walking away on the street, everything is so dark. I know it's supposed to be nighttime, but it's like pretty interesting lighting. You can tell like the sun is going down and there's like just like the streaks of light kind of going in strange directions.
Well, I got to point out on Digital 15, when Nathan goes to I think it's after he goes to the bank machine, I love those super tall Frank Miller tall skinny panels when it's like overhead shot of the street, then an extreme close-up of Nathan's glasses, then an extreme close-up of the hands, then look at that panel, it's just the wheelchair wheel, and then a little silhouette of Peter Parker at the bottom, and then Peter pulling his wallet out of his jacket, and you see that great shot of his face at the top. Like, that's a great page. I love it. I don't know, I could talk about this whole issue. I think the art is outstanding in this issue. But anyway, yeah. As far as the story, I mean, Bex, you haven't really said much. What do you think of this issue? What's your first impression?
I really, really liked it. I liked the structure a lot. Obviously, we could talk about the art forever, but I want to just bring up the story for a little bit. The little bits with Venom is cool because they're like getting Venom. Please give me more Venom. But I love that the big, like, superhuman fight scene just happens right at the beginning to get us started. And then the rest of the issue is, like, a character-driven story between Peter and Nathan and what's going on with Nathan's life. And yeah, there's a fight scene at the end, but it's Peter punching a bunch of non-superpowered dudes to protect Nathan, right? It's not like a big brawl between all of your favorite superheroes. I love the pacing. I love how much actual, like, just character interaction there was, especially in juxtaposition to the last issue, which it was just a bunch of misunderstandings fighting. This was actually like, oh, these people all know each other, and they all talk to each other, and they all have lives that intersect and everything, and that's cool. I just really, really enjoyed it. There's a lot of good Spider-Man time in this. There's a lot of good, like, Peter just following Nathan around. You know, gambling as an addiction. We got all the problems in this issue. We got Christy, we got Nathan, we got Peter. Everyone just has problems.
Yeah.
I love that Nathan stabs a guy.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
In his wheelchair, like he's prepping all of these. Like what else? He steals the knife. He steals the flour. Doesn't he? He takes something else too. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Pepper spray or the Raid, right?
The
like
Raid.
The bug spray.
Oh right, he sprays him with bug spray in the face.
great.
See, to be honest, it is weird that the only thing Aunt May notices is the flower, because it made me think, oh, cocaine, heroin. I thought somehow it was going to be tied in. But yeah, it's weird that it's a knife, raid, and flour. I don't know. It was kind of weird.
But I think he was taking all of that from the kitchen.
Sure,
right?
Right,
like the raid under
the
sink, and that's a kitchen knife, right? So like she just catches him at the end taking the last thing.
Right. Sorry, I just had like my mind just went somewhere else where like I'd like to see a comic of like a crime fighter who fights crime with flour, just throwing flour in people's eyes, blinding them.
Is that just the Dale from The King of the Hill, right? With the pocket sand?
Pocket sand.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't
throw
seen
sand
that.
in people's face. You're probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recommend many a show to you, Mike, but you're probably fine.
Mike, I think you can answer this. I don't remember if Becca was on at the time, because this was like pretty early on in the podcast, but didn't we already deal with Nathan having a gambling problem and being like a part of the mafia and the mafia after him?
Yeah.
That was like right when he was introduced, right?
I don't remember exactly what happened, but there was all kinds of shenanigans with Nathan. Yes, I remember. I know he was beat up by street toughs, but I don't remember why.
I know that one. He was beat up by the teens on the bus.
Right.
Right.
I don't remember the gambling thing. Maybe
it wasn't gambling. He was tied in somehow though to like the mafia, right? So it's really strange that they would do that again after kind of resolving that side of Nathan, but I guess it's a lot less time for us reading this now than because it was probably almost 10 years ago at this point, because it was right at the beginning of Spider-Cast, right? So
good point. They're hoping people forgot.
Yeah, maybe. So it definitely wasn't like anything that was like a detriment to the story or anything, but it just was like struck me as odd that they would do that again for this issue. But
I know I've already talked about the art a lot, but there's two more things I want to say. The second last page, when Nathan goes to the corner stand and he buys those lottery tickets, I really love the way McFarlane does like wide shot of the house, then him ordering, then he's kind of like a little bit sullen, and then that last panel is just him slumped over in his wheelchair, like a little black silhouette. I think that's really effective,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's like in no place does he say he's feeling guilty at all, but you just get this thread of guilt from it.
Yep.
Yeah, you can literally see him in the panels getting like smaller in the last three. Like he's there asking, and then he gets like shrunk, and then it's like he's like super low and like really small in the panel. It's great to kind of see his like whole body shrink down. And it kind of reminds me of the ending 2 weeks ago on the podcast with the drug episode.
Sure.
Where we kind of have that like solemn moment where it's like, even though we kind of like stop it, it's like this thing that can't be stopped at this point, and it's a huge problem. And like once they bust one drug dealer, another one kind of just takes his place. And it was very reminiscent of that, where it's kind of like, don't worry, I've gotten past it, and then he obviously doesn't and relapses, just like the drug dealer replaces another one on the street right after they fix that problem. So
right, I thought of that too. Yeah, it's great. Yep. One more thing about the art. Okay, I love this final page with the family driving Eddie Brock. Right. I love the way McFarlane splits up those last panels.
So great.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I just hate snakes, don't you? No, I only hate spiders. I just think it's so cool.
You can feel like it's essentially one panel, but because it's split into the three, it feels like a camera panning down as it's almost like revealed who this like dark figure in the background of the van is, and we see like the forehead and those angry brows, and then we zoom in on like the angry eyes, and then we see his mouth as he says spiders. It's so fun.
Well, and also imagine if it was one panel with one bubble and it just said, no, I only hate spiders.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be effective. It's the fact that it's split up
for sure.
It's just that moment where you're like, I only hate oh, now he goes say spiders, and then he says spiders. Right. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, I didn't really talk much about the story. I thought it was pretty good. Kind of like an above average issue of Amazing. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think like what Becca was saying, it's one of my favorite structures too of Amazing. I love that they flip it on its head. They have like a big bad guy fight at the beginning to introduce what Spider-Man's up to, and then we go into like the day-to-day life of Peter and his like personal struggles, and that's the story. That's so fun.
Right. So yeah, I guess you know what? By the Spidey metric, I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would give it an 8 too. Yeah.
All right, Bex Luthor.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the hidden spider on the cover.
Yeah, this was a tough one.
Oh,
I found it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I did.
Okay, folks, just if you're listening right now, flip to the cover of 315. There is a hidden spider somewhere on this cover. Where is it?
And you just keep listening in silence. You guys just keep listening as we silently look at the cover and try and find the spider.
Wait, you're not counting the logo, are you, on his back?
No, she was joking.
Oh,
right?
Mike, everything I've ever said is a joke.
Yeah, that's true. No, but I thought you...
Especially when I talk about how sad I am.
Yeah. Oh.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Now I don't know what to do now. Anyway,
yeah, that's fine. Did you find the spider?
Actually, it didn't. No. If you know where it is, just tell us.
It is on the left side in the water.
Well, yeah, I figured it was the water, but where in the water?
Like above McFarlane's name.
Yeah, right above his name there.
So listeners, go to the McFarlane signature and go up like an inch. It's right there, and it's drawn like an outline. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, this one I'll give 8 Venom kissing another dude out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Because Venom, this is his second appearance, and he's kissing dudes. Canonically, likes dudes. I'm sorry, everybody else, but it's canon.
Maybe we should just
love how wide he draws him. He's just so
Sandman?
wide. No,
Venom. Yeah, I agree.
He's just so wide.
No Topher Grace. He's got to be wide. I know. I was gonna say maybe we should change the rating system to just be out of warm bones.
Warm bones?
I thought you were gonna say we'll change the rating system out of boy kisses, and I was like, I'm down for that. 8 out of 10 boy kisses. I love me some boy kisses.
How warm are your bones out of 10?
Yeah.
My bones are 75 degrees Fahrenheit out of 10.
Okay.
That's for our American listeners.
There you go. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Spectacular Spider-Man 150. I wonder how this trial is going to turn out. Oh, it says it right on the cover. Joe Robertson, this court finds you guilty. Kind of a spoiler there, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. It is the first thing that happens
on
the first page, so I guess it's fine. It's not like it's a reveal.
Guilty, but still, it would have been nice to do like a Watchmen trick where the cover is kind of like a panel 0 for the story, so it starts the story. You know, that would have been smart. It could have been like, the verdict or whatever, but oh well. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Joe Robertson's found guilty, and there's this huge, scene of the lawyer kind of trying to argue with the judge, but it doesn't work. Then we get a huge flashback of everything that's led up to this, which we've talked about many times on the show, so we're not going to recap it, but Joe Robertson's wife is obviously upset. Nick Katzenberg, who I remember, so prominently from when I was a kid. I didn't realize he was introduced this late in the game, but Nick Katzenberg was just introduced like 2 weeks ago, and now he's already at the trial, causing trouble, taking a picture of his own editor-in-chief, right? Because he still is technically the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle. Taking a picture of him, and Joe Robertson's son wants to punch his lights out. Peter Parker has to step in. Katzenberg's camera gets smashed. Joe Robertson's let off to jail. And then we get a little subplot, a little scene showing how J. Jonah Jameson's been acting differently lately, but we know it's because he's actually the chameleon, right? But no one else knows that yet. Another little cool subplot by Gerry Conway there. So Spider-Man is swinging around, and he decides, he crosses paths with a werewolf. Which we don't know who this could be. Becca knows. But anyway,
just me. Nobody else has figured it out.
Just Becca. So Spidey rescues this guy who's been attacked by the wolf to bring him to the hospital. And he's like, we were set up. The Kingpin. And then he goes, who's your boss? The Kingpin. So Spider-Man... so then we kind of follow the wolf crawling along rooftops and making his way to Gloria Grant's apartment window. And meanwhile, on the ground in a car is... this is Joy Mercado, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's actually watching Gloria because she feels like we're basically worried for her that she's in some kind of danger with this guy. And then when she sees a werewolf crawl into her apartment building, she's kind of, her fears are justified. So then we cut over to kind of like, what is this? It's not like a wake. It's kind of like a post-conviction party. What would you call it? Yeah,
it's basically a wake.
Yeah, basically like a wake. So all these people have gotten together because, now they know Joe Robertson is going off to jail. And, just like melodrama ensues. And then we get a nice little Sal Buscema kind of trick where he kind of zooms out of the window of the Robertson house, and then it cuts over to the same size window, but it's the jail now. This is where Joe Robertson's in jail, and it kind of zooms in, and we join Joe Robertson deep in thought, and he runs into this guy in jail, this short dude, and he's like, he's like, I got a message, a message from the man. The man says, stay well. The man says, I'll be looking for you in Lewisburg. Who could that be? What could that mean, right? So anyway, Spider-Man decides he's going to go confront the Kingpin. So he goes to the Kingpin, and he actually tells Kingpin that his men are being, like, attacked and killed. But it's somehow, in all this time, the Kingpin did not know about it. So I guess the Arranger's been keeping information from him. So Kingpin hits one of those buttons underneath his desk to contact Arranger. And he's like, Arranger, get in here. I want a word with you. So we know that the shit's going to hit the fan with the Arranger. Meanwhile, Gloria Grant wakes up from bed, and she looks, and there's a naked Lobo brother laying on her carpet with like blood and stuff. And astute readers like Becca will know that this is actually the werewolf from earlier, right?
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah. I thought we were going to talk about the naked man. I was like, I don't really have a whole lot of experience with that, but
anyway,
thanks for thinking of me.
Anyway, okay, so Gloria Grant dresses his wounds, and then look at this, more sexual innuendos. They start to kiss. And the towels come off, the slippers come off. Who knows what's going to happen next? Only astute readers will figure it out. So then we cut over to...
He eats her.
What's that?
He eats her.
Yeah. So then we cut over to... Now Joe Robertson's back in... Like, he's getting his... what's it called? His actual... what is it called?
Sentencing?
Sentencing, yes. So he's sentenced to 3 years in jail. 36 months. And he's led away, and everyone's all upset and crying. And I love this weird page. Gerry Conway's been doing this lately, where he inserts these weird stories. But this is the only time that it was kind of like it kind of like expanded on the plot. We see this page of Joe Robertson being led into prison, and then while it's happening, there's these narration boxes telling a story where it seems like Joe Robertson's remembering going to prison when he was 6 years old. But when it gets to the end of the page, the punchline is that was the first lesson Joe Robertson learned on his first day of school. So obviously, it's like the analogy of school is like a prison, right? So it was very cool. I thought that was a nice page. I liked it. But then anyway, surprise. We find out what that message from earlier meant. So he's standing in his jail cell, and all of a sudden he hears a voice from over his shoulder. Now, isn't this nice, Robbie pal? We cut to the last page. Oh no, it's Tombstone. Tombstone. Yep, Tombstone is in the cell directly next to Joe Robertson. And it's awesome. It's a very nice little big splash page at the end there. So now, a little cliffhanger, folks. Who knows what's going to happen next, right? But very cool. Yeah, and I'll save my comments for later. But Bex Luthor, what'd you think of this issue?
It was fine.
Not as good as Webb, but okay.
Yeah, sorry, I don't care about Robert Robertson and his trial.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately. I feel for his wife in this. Like, that sucks. Sucks that you're married to such a pussy.
Ooh, okay.
I'm
Once
kidding. I love my confirmation that for sure this guy's a werewolf, just because we didn't know that before.
Yeah.
Nobody's said wolves at all in any of these issues, so that's great for me to be proven right on my deep diving, intuitive thinking. No, it was. You know what? As for how the trial could go, it was as interesting as I could have hoped to be, but I think mostly because a lot of it doesn't focus on Robbie, who I find an uninteresting character, and focuses on his family's reaction to this. I do enjoy that he got 3 years for this. And then, like
20 years later.
Yeah.
A young man terrified for his life and his family doesn't report a murder, gets 3 years in jail.
That's that's more than like an actual murderer gets in Canada, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say what I want to say, but maybe it's because he's black.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of what I got from this too. I don't know if they meant to.
They don't mention that, but I'm like, it has to. Like, this is ridiculous. 3 years?
I didn't read that into this at all, but now that you say that, it's possible. But I just took it as Gerry Conway trying to be as dramatic as possible. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure which of the two it is. If it is supposed to be like shining a light on this and talking about a serious issue, even if it didn't, I think it does a good job of kind of pointing that out, how ridiculous this trial is, and he still gets sentenced to an unreasonable amount of time in prison.
The maximum, because they said early at the beginning of the trial, it's like a maximum of 3 years. He gets sentenced to the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
For this, and he's in the same prison as the guy who killed somebody. So I think the judge is like,
well, yeah, the same guy that he wasn't supposed to, that he didn't rat on.
That he was, because he was scared.
Yeah,
like. And I feel like his lawyer, she seems like she knew what she was doing, so she must have, like, fought a little bit. I mean, it's very obvious that Robbie didn't put as much, maybe, into it as he should have. Like, hey, who here wouldn't keep a secret to prevent their wife getting murdered?
Right.
By a guy who you know is capable of murder.
Right.
Because you saw it. Like, and then they even point out, they're like, and you've been an upstanding citizen since then, an amazing journalist, speaking the truth and finding justice. Maximum sentencing. Prison. Go.
Right.
I'm like, bruh.
Uh-huh.
So it does feel very realistic. Also, Mike's favorite part of this comic was probably the fact that the Kingpin, just to change the subject, didn't know what was going on.
That's so great.
Yeah, because as I've said, I don't like him being, like, all-knowing. So, yeah, I did like that. I did like that.
Really like that in this issue, because it goes to show that he is not like he doesn't have like a superpower where he's like, oh, I knew that the whole time.
Right.
It all has to do with his connections. It just shows how much of a powerful person he is, right? Just like how many connections he has. So if one of his like right hand men are keeping something from him, then he loses a lot of that visibility, and that's super interesting. And I think that it's even more of an interesting idea because for so long he's just almost been untouchable with his knowledge. So that was great. I also absolutely love this issue for not having any freaking interludes. Holy shit. They were able to just tell a freaking story for once.
That's a
it's
good
spectacular.
point. I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so good. All of the characters had a reason for being here. Even the Lobo subplot, we have Spider-Man and him kind of confronting, and then because of the wound, he goes back and talks to Gloria. Like it all connects. It all has a reason to be here.
Uh-huh.
I really enjoyed this one. I do like Robbie. I think that this whole trial and Tombstone thing has been dragging on for way too long at this point. So I'm happy that we're kind of getting to the end of it, because
that's what you think anyway.
Well, sorry, I'm fine with them continuing this story with Robbie and Tombstone. I like them.
Okay.
But this whole trial and him dealing with I've held this secret for 20 years. We've been talking about it for the past year worth of comics. So it's kind of just probably more at this point, honestly. So I'm kind of just I'm happy that the trial is now over and we can just move on and see what the next chapter of this Robbie story is. I love that Tombstone shows up at the end. Okay, actually, who is this little guy that comes up to him and gives him the warning? This is somebody, or
no, he's just like a stoolie. As far as I know, he's just some random dude.
Because it was so weird and off-putting looking at this character, because he is so he has such a distinguished face and a very, it's like a caricature almost. It doesn't fit with the style of the rest of the comic. He has this giant bobblehead too in every shot that he's in, or every panel he's in. So I thought he was somebody, or it was a reference to something.
No, I mean, I didn't take it that way, but
it kind of took me out for a second, because I was just sitting there thinking who is this guy? Why did he draw him like this?
See, I'm actually looking up the credits of the issue to see if this is a specific character. His character's not even listed here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
yeah, maybe it was just me, but he looks like he's drawn different to me. So I was just thinking he was somebody, or a reference to something.
Oh, okay.
Like a show or something even.
I definitely got that feeling too, because they do a front shot head on of a very, very detailed face of a guy that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm this has to be somebody, Gerry Conway's friend or somebody.
Right. Yeah.
Which contest did this kid win?
Right.
Yeah, it could definitely be a friend of a friend or something. Yeah. Who knows?
It's specifically somebody, maybe not somebody famous, maybe just the artist's neighbor. He's I'll put
something, yeah.
Thanks for cleaning out my eavesdrops. I'll put you in a Spider-Man comic. I mean, that does happen all the time. I mean, we do know Yannick Paquette, not to name drop our good friend Yannick Paquette, right. Brilliant artist, put our other good friend Joe Lee, G.I. Joe Lee of the podcast, in a Wonder Woman comic.
Earth 1, Book 3, I think it was, or Book 2, yeah, right.
Which is beautifully drawn, by the way, and everyone should go pick it up and check it out. But yeah, so it's probably just that. It's just a very, very highly detailed somebody you knew.
Friend, right.
Mm-hmm. And this guy has this book, and it's framed, and it's in his house, and every party he goes to, he's I was in Spider-Man. Sure, Dave, whatever you say.
So, anyway, this issue I thought was really good. I like Josh said, I like the way they focused on the trial, and that's it. There was a lot of narration, not narration, but captions, I guess you could call them. Maybe a little bit too much, but I do like the way... Actually, it's funny, Josh, because you mentioned there's no subplots, but technically, wouldn't the Lobos brothers count? Or is it?
But it's not an interlude. You know what I mean? They don't stop. Spider-Man in this issue runs into the werewolf as he's swinging and stuff. So it's connected in some way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, because Peter leaves the courthouse, Swiss starts swinging around, runs into one of the Lobo brothers. Then we follow the Lobo brother to Gloria Grant's apartment, and then he wakes up in Gloria Grant's apartment. It's not we're and in Seattle, and then we go over to Seattle to see what they're doing over there.
Yeah. And then we also cut back to Gloria afterwards helping Lobo. So it is a subplot, but it's part of the story and weaved in throughout. It's not, we don't stop to be oh yeah, by the way, something else on the other side of New York is happening that you're going to learn about in a few issues.
Good point.
Yeah, the Hulk's over there doing something. What's he doing?
Right.
Now, I don't know if anyone else noticed, have you noticed that Mary Jane's hairstyle is drastically different in Amazing Spider-Man than it is in Spectacular?
Yeah, it's because McFarlane likes to draw her with 80s hair.
Yeah,
Right.
it's always different. She's always in her classic do in Spectacular, and then in Amazing, she's like Beck said, she's not.
I think
80s,
eventually
like, Hairspray.
Sal Buscema changes it, but I don't know when that's coming. But he does eventually change it. But anyway,
Because like this is Mary Jane's classic hairstyle is the bangs, the straight across bangs, and the long red hair.
Right.
And then McFarlane always gives her those like crazy like
80s
curls and stuff like that
bouffant,
because he's like, beautiful woman must big hair. But when you think Mary Jane, you think about this hair, right?
Absolutely.
I don't mind it because even Peter has a different haircut. Like Peter in this one is like how he's always looked. It's like slicked back, like brown hair with usually like a curl kind of like falling out. Where in Amazing, he's got almost like a mullet the way it's done. Like his hair's kind of like up and kind of long and usually like flowy in the back. So it's just kind of like the style. And I think it fits for each story. I think it's fine. Like this feels like a classic Spidey story. So the art and like how the characters are dressed feels classic. And then Amazing, you got like Nathan fighting a gang war and Venom showing up. So it's kind of fun that they're in these like 80s, attire and hairstyles and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. That doesn't bother me as much, but.
So yeah, I mean, Sal Buscema is good as usual. There's not really a standout page. Other than the splash page is great. I love the shading on Joe Robertson's face here. I think it's great. Otherwise, it's very straightforward storytelling. There's really no action, and not much action in this issue. There's a nice page on Digital 10 of one of the Lobos brothers as a wolf. That's a pretty cool shot. I like that.
I love Peter swinging in the snow.
Yeah,
I
even in front of the moon, or
just the whole thing, like him swinging through the city while it's snowing out, and there's snow on all the rooftops and everything. That's so great. Like it's happened quite a bit in the comics, but it's just nice to hold on.
No problem. Well, yeah, I totally.
It's just
agree
nice
with you.
nice to see him like swinging in a different setting, and seeing New York at this time of year is really fun. And it's not a Christmas episode, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's good.
So I think once again, I'm going to give this 8 out of 10 warm bones. Bex Luthor, what do you give it?
No.
Yeah, I think this was a solid week. This was an 8s across the board kind of week. This was like, I don't have a fun number thing to give this one, but 8 Spider-Man punching tombstones out of 10. I love that panel that he's just decking Tombstone and he's flying
upside down.
That literally made me burst out laughing. I was like, that's funny.
What about 8 full frontal nudities out of 10? Because we almost see Eduardo's Lobo. Did you notice that?
We almost see his logo.
His whole Lobo.
on digital page 18. When he's laying on the carpet.
Never. Look, DC just put Batman's penis in a comic and the world freaked out, okay?
They took it out.
Yeah, they took it out. I saw it. Too bad. You can't take that from me.
That was
That's here now, DC. That's in my
Screenshots
mind
are
forever.
DC.
Yeah, you can't take that from me. I have Bruce's dick. Me. Yeah. I mean, he's not a handsome dude, but he is built well, so good for him. Good for you, Gloria. You get it. But I actually had something important I wanted to say. And then I started thinking about Batman's dick, and it all just went away. I was gonna say our pal Sal. Shout out to our pal Sal for drawing a plus-size woman and never making that a joke.
Oh, the lawyer?
Or an issue. Yeah, she's
good
just
point.
a good lawyer.
Point. Yeah,
and she just also happens to be plus-size, and it's never. No one is like making a joke of it.
Good point.
Her name isn't Bertha or something.
Yeah.
And she's like a lawyer. Like that's cool. Like she just is bigger. And
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like I first I noticed that in the group shot where they're all like sitting around at the not wake, and I was like, and I was like, I just realized I was like, she's drawn definitely larger than the other women in this one. And I was like, and it's never been brought up. So
Right.
good job.
Good point.
Good job, comic book. 8 body positivity movements out of 10.
There you go.
8 Batman's penises out of 10. I'm sorry.
Bat wings. Okay, so there you go.
Bat wangs.
Oh.
That's so another great week
I
for
have to go.
Spidey comics.
Did Josh give his number
Oh wait,
value?
Josh, did you give your
8.
rating?
Yeah, 8.
8
How
what?
many bat penises out of 10?
My warm bones at about an 8 right now.
Okay. All right.
Bat bones.
So there you go. I guess that wraps up another
I
episode.
ruined it.
Well, there you go. All right. Thank you guys so much
What?
for listening to the podcast. I'm just going to wrap it up right now. Keep in contact with us. You can find our podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, honestly. Check out all of our other podcasts over on the Comic Book Syndicate YouTube page or our website at comicbooksyndicate.com. Please let us know what you guys think about the issues and the things that we're talking about in all our podcasts. Leave us a comment, leave us a review, whatever it is. Let's keep that comics conversation going.
Also, join us next week with special guest Dave Constantino. We will be reviewing She-Hulk number 3,
Oh,
Daredevil number 270, and What If number 4. What if Spider-Man was possessed by the alien symbiote? It's going to be a fun one. There you go. So
Very
until
fun.
next Monday, see you later.